Hey guys, welcome back to Jason Joni Builds. We are going to be installing exhaust on our 66 Bronco today. So we're going to start off with a set of Tom's Bronco ceramic coated headers. We have a James Duff dual exhaust kit that we're going to install that I got off of Facebook Marketplace. You know, never know what you'll find. The Duff kit I thought was supposed to work with the Tom's Bronco headers, but I'll show you just some issues that I ran into and that we had to work out. And that kit also came with the Cherry Bomb mufflers. Well, Joni likes the sound of a Flowmaster. So as you can tell at the start of the video, that's actually Joni's Mustang cranking up, and she has a set of Flowmasters and always has had on that car. So my buddy Russell at Advanced Auto Parts hooked us up with two 40 series Flowmasters that we're putting in this kit. So basically it started off as a James Duff kit, and we're kind of modifying it to fit our application. So before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to buddy of mine Rob out at the Arizona Proving Ground. He actually is a Ford test engineer, and I've met Rob through the channel. Super nice guy. He's building a nice Bronco, so we kind of message back and forth, and watching his come together, and it's neat. But one day he kind of teased me. Well, he wasn't teasing me. He just basically said, "I like your shirt." And I said, "Man, if I only knew somebody at Ford." So him playing around, he sends me a real nice shirt. It's from Ford, the Arizona Proving Ground. So I thought that was really cool. So Rob, you're watching, thanks man. I've already worn it, so I appreciate it. All right, so if you're gonna run an AOD on your Bronco, first thing you do when you buy these headers from Tom's Bronco, if you'll read the fine print, it says you'll have to may have to make modifications to the header and the collector if you're going to install it on an AOD. Well, I'll show you what they mean. Driver's side fits perfect. So let Joni show you here. It lays in really nice, very symmetrical. Okay, so the headers, one of the things that concerns me on it is how close my brake lines come to the header. So what I will do is put some heat wrap over the lines and just try to protect them as much as I can. And that'll just keep the headers from boiling my brake fluid. So show you the other side is where the fun comes in. Okay, the headers, of course, work real nice. They're above your starter, so you don't have a problem with that. You can install your starter with their headers on. The first thing I ran into was there's a tab on the transmission. You can see where my fingers are, right below this bolt, and it sticks right out underneath this tube. Well, you have to cut a portion of that tab off. I've got a video of where I modified the transmission there, and we'll insert that here in just a minute. So the second thing is the collector. Now, originally when they came from Tom's, the collector comes down, and again I'll show you with the pictures on the screen, but this collector actually pointed basically right here at the transmission. It was pointing at the pan. So what I ended up doing was cutting the header here. I cut the flange, put a pie cut in it, and rolled this ball joint back around and straightened it up. So, and it clears it now. But what I am going to do again is I've got some exhaust wrap. I'm going to wrap the mufflers, and I'm going to wrap these joints here close to the transmission. I'll probably wrap it from here down, maybe even around the torque converter. I'll just wrap all this in exhaust wrap just to kind of protect this transmission from all that extra heat. Alright, so what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to insert where I modify the header here. Okay guys, so As you can see, the headers will not completely bolt down. And I don't know if I can, let me see. And then you see right there the bolt holes are misaligned. All because on the transmission we have this tab, this machining tab right here that's hitting our header tube. So what I'm going to do, my first modification to the headers will be cutting that tab off the transmission so I can get the headers to bolt up. Our second issue we have with Tom's Bronco headers, and again, this isn't a surprise. Tom's will tell you you'll have to modify your header if you're going to use an AOD, and they even say specifically at the collector. And the issue is once this thing gets pulled up tight, you can see where the collector is pointing. It's pointing right there at the pan, and I really don't want that. What we'll end up doing is, you guys are going to cringe. I'm going to pie cut my collector just above the flange, and I'm going to reclock it basically to split the difference between the frame rail and the transmission. So I know I can index it here some with the ball and socket. I don't want this close to the transmission. And then we'll wrap it in header wrap just to kind of help protect the transmission a little bit. Alright, so let me get the header pulled off and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the tab, and I really don't have to remove it all the way up into the transmission. Looking at it, I really basically need to take it off at kind of like a 45 right across here. So I'm going to try that to start with, and we'll see how the header fits. I've got that cut now. Let's see if you can see it. The 45 degree was just right. I'll pull the header back off here and show you guys. But I don't have any problem down there now. We're not hitting. We won't be close to hitting. But here's your next issue. Now you can see my header flange is hitting the transmission pan right here. No matter where I roll it, it's always going to hit it. So, like I was saying, what I need to do now is basically reclock this so I split this difference. Because if you look at how they built this, it's a really good design. The way, it's very symmetrical. It falls between the transmission and the frame rail like it's supposed to. It's just this transmission is just a little bit wider, and that's going to be the problem. So we can fix that. This is the pie cut I want to do on the header, so I'll probably cut it just a little less than what I've got marked and kind of bend it to start with and see where I'm at, because I can always take more metal out. It's a little more difficult welding it back. So the way I'm going to go about this, I've got some tape here. This is blue painter's tape. I just tore a strip so I have a nice straight edge. And what I want to start with first is a straight edge around the header. So I kind of know where I'm cutting. You see I'm trying to keep my weld and all behind this flange so I don't have trouble here. I'm going to end up TIG welding this, so I know I can get my weld pretty. It'll take a little work, but now you see this is where my cut will stop, and I know I can come back here and mark it again, so when I'm cutting with the grinder, I'll stop here because I don't want to detach this. I want to be able to bend it over and have it hold itself. It'll make things much easier. Okay, here is the cut. You can see, cut a nice brand new set of headers. But you got to do it. So let's stick it back on and see what it looks like. And it's much better. I think I would like to go just a little bit more. Basically what I'm trying to do is get, it's hard to tell on camera. See if I can get a look at it. Alright, you see how this angle is trying to walk towards the transmission? If I can bring this up a little bit more and flatten this portion out, and again we'll get a little bit more up into here, and I think it'll work just fine. All right, so this is what I have now. I have clearance at the transmission. There's no doubt it's still tight. All right guys, I want to show you my way of getting this header ready to weld. Now please don't misunderstand me. I am not telling you that I'm an expert and that I am the best TIG welder in the world, because I am not. I can get the job done, but I work around a lot of guys that can really do this stuff and really lay those nickels. For me, I have to take my time and get it right. So what I have here is I have a strap that's pulling this, that's pulling my collector down, you know, where I cut it. So the strap is keeping my gap pulled nice and tight. So my fit is really good. I don't have to worry about that. No problem welding that up. As you can see, I've cleaned the ceramic coat off where my weld is going to be. I've got this metallic tape here on the end. This is kind of like vent tape. I'm going to pop a couple holes in it. And you can see on this other end, you're probably wondering what in the world is this. Where I have just the painter's tape and then this tube running there. What it is I can meter in my argon so I can purge the header while I weld. And what that'll help is that'll help my weld on the inside to keep it from sugaring. It's like a crystallization of your weld on the inside. And if you don't protect it, it'll just do that. And some people just don't worry about it. But this will help it some. I still may get a little bit, but any preventative action I can do, this really doesn't take that long. And what I bought is some 309 welding rod, which is basically stainless to mild carbon steel. That's got to thinking that I'm going to have this wrapped, and it might trap a little moisture when it's cold, and maybe just give the weld a little better chance of surviving. Alright, well here's the weld. Like I said, it's not a bunch of stacked dimes, but I got real good penetration. I think it laid in there really nice. My flange still moves fine. So that's a good weld. I'm satisfied with that. I know you guys that do this for a living can do so much better, but I'm proud of that. I'll show you the inside where I was talking about trying to avoid the weld on the inside sugaring. Let's see. It didn't pop out, didn't sugar. So we're good. All right, so now you guys seen how I've worked that out, worked the problem out. I'm gonna put locking bolts on my headers so I don't have to worry about these loosening up and blowing a gasket out. So that's just cheap insurance. Put a good set of bolts with the locking nut. Well, it's actually a locking washer, and it helps kind of lock these bolts in place. So let me show you how we started. All right, so as you see, my Flowmasters here, they were reversed how Duff sent the cherry bombs. These Flowmasters and the cherry bomb actually have the same dimensions. Only thing that was different is the inlet and the outlet on the Flowmaster is reversed to the cherry bomb. The cherry bomb muffler is reversible, so I could have just flipped it around. Well, Flowmaster has to go in one direction. Well, this is the inlet. So I kind of had to work these out a little bit different than how Duff, they send you some instructions. This is basically where they were going to have you install it, but what I'm doing is I basically have the bracket upside down. They usually want you to have the muffler, the inlet was here, it would be sitting on top of this bracket. So where I started was my frame actually had a hole here. It's 1.5 inches above the bottom of the frame rail, and it's centered on your body mount. So if you went straight down, measured up 1.5 inches, you should have a hole there, and it measured somewhere around 5/16 of an inch. So I drilled it and tapped it for a 3/8 inch bolt. So I started there, and what I did is on the passenger side, I did the very same thing. It did not have a hole already, so I measured up 1.5 inches. I centered it over the body mount. I drilled it and tapped it, and this is the mount that comes with the kit. It's basically a heavy L bracket. It's got a piece of like a rubber isolator here, and then you just tighten it down tight. And before I'm done, I'm gonna put a knee brace on it from here up here somewhere, just because I overthink things sometimes, and I just feel like it needs. So I'll end up doing that. I don't have that done, but you guys will be able to do something like that if you like. All right. Sorry, there's a whole lot to tell. I had to mount my gas tank because I wanted to make sure where I put my rear pipes that they didn't hit, and I don't have my pipes too close. So right now they're kind of pretty well laid where I want them. I haven't mounted them or anything. So it's a little close to the tank right in here. I can get my hand in there fine, but I've got plenty of movement in this pipe. So what I'll probably end up doing is dragging this back about 1 inch. But the passenger side, is Johnny will be able to see, you guys can tell it's much closer. It's only about a 1/4 inch gap there. So we'll do the same thing. Is this pipe is actually sticking back already about a 1/2 inch towards the back. I'll cut some of that off, and then we'll also cut off the extra inch like I want to move this one. Other than that, those pipes are fitting very well. Okay, so you guys can see this pipe, the way Duff has it, basically is centered on the frame rail as it comes around the tank. And this kit comes with the angled side exhaust. So, and right now I've got it at 24 inches. I went and measured my body to where the frame is, where the body mount is, and this actually is going to be, the pipe should be sitting about 2 inches below the rear quarter. So this will be just right. So I really don't have to put these on until we get the body, because I want to make sure I get them straight, get both sides purely symmetrical. So what I'm going to concern myself with today is getting this pipe hung on both sides, center of the frame rail. I want my distance from the end of my frame to the exhaust to be the same. I want to make sure I have clearance at the gas tank. I can get that hung, and then when we're done, when I get the Bronco done, I can stick these on and just put it right where I want it and make sure it's where it needs to be. And another thing, they send U-bolts with this kit, and I'm going to weld mine up. If I got to take it out, I can drop it at the header and drop the exhaust out and roll it out. I can put it on the lift. All right, so the intermediate pipes, these were close, but they wouldn't fit exactly like I wanted them to fit. And I can't blame Duff, because I'm changing it. I'm doing it different. I'm using different mufflers. But they gave me a really good starting point. So the way I started with this is they send you basically these adapters. It's that ball and socket adapter for your header. And kind of stuck it on, got it in place. And you see it would fit good, and then I was going to pass my transfer case good right here. But if you'll kind of look back here, it would have had my muffler really close to the frame. So I just played with it a little bit. I mounted the muffler, got it, right now it's sitting a little crooked, but I got it laid right where I want it. And so I started marking it. And this is the kind of stuff that you can do for your local muffler shop. I marked my top, so I always know where the top is. I wanted to offset it 1 pipe diameter inside this area. So basically I wanted him to take it and break it so it would just meet up with the muffler. All right, and here on this end, I didn't want this flare. You see, it's kind of loose for this adapter. So that was something else I told him, don't flare the end. So I took it to the shop. Some guys over at Rick's Custom Exhaust, they're here in Dothan. Anyways, honestly, I don't think he really wanted to do it, and I understand it because, you know, when you're dealing with exhaust, if it's off just a little bit, he would think I'd come back mad. But I just asked him, just build it how I marked it, and everything will be fine, and it is. So here's my new intermediate pipe. Here's the offset he did for me. He didn't flare the end, like I asked. See, that fits like it's supposed to now. And if I take this pipe, just like that. And there's my intermediate pipe. And it's basically holding itself. I don't have anything on there. And it's got my muffler sitting straight up and down. I'm plenty of distance away from the frame. So he did that perfect. So guys, I appreciate it if you're watching. All right, so passenger side. So this was the same thing on my passenger side. This was the pipe, the first intermediate pipe that came with Duff's. It was a little shorter, and I forget exactly what was here, but I cut it off, and I just had some weird pieces here from over the years. And I needed one that had like a 45-degree turn on it. So I just slid it over the end and kind of clocked it where I wanted it. And once I put it in, I felt, okay, I can make this work. So let me get out the one they built for me. Okay, here again is the pipe they built. Alright, so here is the exhaust now fitted. You can see I've got an air gap between it and the transmission. It's still tight, there's no doubt. But you know, if you actually look, I've got it pretty well centered. It's off-centered just a little bit towards the transmission, but it's going to work out fine. We're going to wrap all that really good. So what I wanted to show you is how symmetrical it is right now. I say symmetrical, you know, where the mufflers are you know, both straight up and down, same distance apart off of the frame. They're the same height. So mainly what I need to work on now is we're going to get the back pipes pulled loose, and we'll get those shortened up so we can make a little clearance around the gas tank. Alright guys, so Joni kind of feels this video is going to get long. I agree. There's a whole lot to tell you guys, and I get long-winded, but I feel like there's a lot going on here. So what we will do is make a part 2 video of kind of finishing this up, and then we can wrap the exhaust, wrap the joints, get this thing welded up. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit, and as I've been talking, messing back and forth with a few folks that are doing this same install, putting a AOD in their Bronco. So hopefully this will give them some idea of what to expect when they go to putting exhaust on theirs too. So anyways, thanks again. You guys take care. We'll see you on the next one.